Georgia's election probe is advancing with new search warrants.
Michael Flynn's whole life is really a story of culture war from start to finish.
They're godless, they're soulless.
General Flynn, he's a living martyr.
This idea that this was spiritual warfare, it's not even an undertone.
The battle for the soul of America, using the church as a tool.
In collaboration with the Associated Press.
What are you fighting for?
God bless you, God bless America. Thank you very much.
Now streaming on PBS.
That is, leadership approach isn't good. And then we start to hear the phrase Flynn facts. The most famous Flynn fact is Iran has killed more Americans than Al-Qaeda. And at the time, people said, but that's demonstratively not true. Al-Qaeda was behind 9/11. And he didn't back down from it. He stood by it. And I think that's really when this idea of Flynn facts took off.
Every analyst that ever briefed him came away with a Flynn fact. Yeah. Things that were not consistent with real facts, real intelligence, and common sense that Flynn passionately believed in. That's what a Flynn fact was. And he had a lot of them.
Flynn was forced out of DIA in 2014. He left the military and formed an alliance with Donald Trump in the 2016 campaign against Hillary Clinton. For Flynn, the war had come home.
We must recognize that America has enemies in our homeland and abroad. Radical Islam metastasizing throughout the world.
I think we
Lock her up. That's right. Yeah, that's right. Lock her up. Exactly right. There's nothing wrong with that.
Okay, it's Thursday, 20 October in the year of our Lord 2022. We're 17, 18, and a wake up to the biggest midterm election since 1862 in the early years of the Civil War. I want to bring in General Mike Flynn. He's joined by Vic Mellor. They're in Pennsylvania today. General Flynn, I know you're an altar boy. I was just at a Catholic event the other night that you headlined, and I know your faith runs very deep. But I never thought I'd see a PBS, one of these PBS Frontline specials, now in association with the Associated Press. That's Mike Flynn's Holy War.
Commander.
Flynn, I knew you were religious. I always said you were a spiritual guy. Why is PBS and the Associated Press coming after my good friend and colleague Mike Flynn?
Yeah, you know this, Steve. So first of all, we are here in Mannheim, Pennsylvania. We have the Reawaken America tour for the next couple of days. We have 5,000 people, and it's just going to be an unbelievable. Obviously, we're here in Pennsylvania, which is a critical state for the upcoming election. That's sort of victory at all costs here. So yeah, they are after me because what they fear most, Steve, and you know this well. They fear what they can't control. And as we've seen, and for those that watch that PBS Frontline special, this is an attack on Christianity. It's an attack on the very foundations of America. It's an attack on a lot of issues that we are dealing with in this country. And they, like they do all the time, they attack the person and they don't attack the issues that we are bringing to light. To these 5,000 people that we're going to have for the next couple of days here in Pennsylvania. And this is our 16th city that we've been in for this Reawaken America tour. So, and one of those pieces of that clip, I don't even know that gal there. I think she's a fake journalist. She talks about, Flynn facts in Iran at the time. Well, at the time that I gave that interview, we were already years into the Iraq war, and Iraq was using these explosively formed projectiles killing Americans on the battlefield in Iraq. So these people don't have any idea what they're talking about. And I'm here with my buddy Vic Mellor, who is the owner and really the creator, visionary for this place called The Hollow out in East Venice, Florida. And as you and I talked about briefly, we went through a massive hurricane, Hurricane Ian, and the Hollow was highlighted in the PBS special. I don't know if we can show the clip where the journalist from Rhode Island, I guess she was down there. She was probably trespassing on somebody's property and there was gunfire in the background, trying to make it sound like, this is a militia place. The Hollow has a program for children, for educating children. And they actually show it in the thing where Vic's teaching gun safety and he's teaching children about the Constitution. I mean, it's just unbelievable. It's an assault on the very foundations of who we are. And the other thing I want to mention about Vic here, let him make a few comments about the Hollow, is he's also a former Marine and just a great servant for our country. As you know, Steve, having served in the Navy.
Vic, tell us about the Hollow, because they try to come after you guys with doing this education plan for gun safety with these kids. Tell us about the Hollow.
Well, we obviously sparked the nerve somewhere. I started the Hollow 4 years ago, and I'm just at that point. The constant berating and everything I believe to be true and love and about our country. I just had to do something. I had to get off the sidelines of doing my business. And, I bought a piece of property, and all I was going to do initially was just start up a little educational system for kids to give them gun safety and gun classes. And then about a year later, COVID hit, and, all that too. And then we rolled into the second school year of COVID. And that's when they kept the mask on our kids. And this is where they're pissed off at me. What happened is our liberal school board, they kept the mask back on, and the Hollow brought all the local conservative groups together, and we all became one. We brought together 5,000 people. We got 2,000 mask exemptions signed off. We mobilized over 100 doctors, nurses, paramedics in a matter of 2 days. It was beautiful. And we got it done. And since that day, the Hollow acted as a community hub, all conservative groups, and it helps. We bring them all together for a one voice, and we ended up crushing them in the school board elections. We swept, and and I was proud to be the a driving force. And
it's a big deal. This is one of the this school board. And they mentioned it in this PBS special. How we're getting Flynn's getting behind all this local action stuff, as you heard me say, Steve. Local has a national impact. Well, it damn sure does, and I wish we could have a Hollow in multiple places around the country, if not in every single state.
Yeah, that's why they've gone after Vic, because not only did he set this up, they swept the school board. These school boards are essential. A couple of things, General. I just want to make sure we get this so you can get it out there, because the special. You announced on our show you were precinct committeeman, not just, I think, the chairman or become the chairman. You believe in grassroots. You believe in people getting involved, whether it's Vic at the Hollow and then the inspiration he gives local people to take over the school board. You said, hey, I'm going to be a precinct committeeman. I'm going to get down there to be like almost a private, right, in the Army or an NCO, and show how this works. In the PBS special, they do talk about that, and it freaks them out. Why are they so worried about people of faith and American citizens and tons of veterans getting involved at the grassroots level, so whether it's a school board or at the precinct level?
Yeah, big time. So, and as a very tactical level, my wife and I, we went and attended a poll watcher training actually last night. So we are going to be at the grassroots level. I mean, the title, about, the part of the title that says Holy War. I mean, these people are so afraid, and they've tried to give this tagline of Christian nationalism or Christian nationalist. Hey, I always say I'm an Irish Catholic kid from up in New England, up in the state of Rhode Island. Grew up as an Irish Catholic kid, and I'm practicing Catholic. I'm a follower. If that makes me a Christian, okay, I'm a Christian. And if what they define as nationalist, if it's somebody who loves this country, I love my country. I am going to be fearless about the United States of America. And I know the guy that I'm sitting next to feels the same way about just this patriotic spirit that we have for our country. And these people on the left, on the far left, especially on the far left, this is a Marxist takeover. They have no soul. They don't care about the idea of Christianity. Believe me, these folks, if they have their way, they'll they'll shut down every church just like they did in COVID. And one of the things that Vic did was he saw that happening, and he basically opened up a place for families to come to. I mean, you should see this place. I mean, the crazy thing about it is, Steve, is they could have like not made Vic here, and the Hollow a national platform, but they did. And I'm glad that they did, because we have had events in his location. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful patriotic place. And they even try to make it sound like, when they talk about, well, this Thomas Jefferson quote, which is crazy, but they don't talk about Rosa Parks. They don't talk about, Martin Luther King and other quotes that are on the walls down there. It's incredible. That's what we're up against, Steve. You know it. Your audience knows it, and we have to be relentless in our fighting back against it. And frankly, I'm at the local level.
We're going to send a lot of traffic over to Vic, over to the Hollow. Just one last thing, General Flynn, how many years you spent in the Army?
I spent almost 34, just over 33 years in the Army.
General Flynn, how many times? Because remember, you were a assistant to the president. How many times did you swear individually, if you remember, swear an oath to the Constitution?
I would say, Steve, multiple times every single one of those years, because I usually did it with reenlistment ceremonies and induction ceremonies. So I'd say it's hundreds.
General Flynn, you hold the Constitution very dear, correct?
Near and dear to my heart. I live it and I believe it.
Is there anything you've been doing on the Reawakening Tour, or anything you've been doing in work helping people reawaken to the basic foundational documents of this country, or the foundational elements of this country, that you think goes against anything on your oath to the Constitution, General?
Yeah, no, absolutely not. In fact, we live this Reawaken America Tour is all about our rights, especially our freedom of speech. It's our ability to be able to speak freely and talk about the things that are just God's honest truth, Steve. I mean, we cover a range of issues on these tours here. I mean, everything from health, our health security and our health needs, to our ability to speak freely. We have a number. I mean, we've got Mike Lindell is going to be here. Kash Patel, Eric Trump is here. I mean, we have so many people that are going to be visiting with us here these next couple of days that are going to be speaking about all the things going on in the country. And we always invite, we have all the mainstream media. All the mainstream media is going to be here as well. We invite them all the time. They just so happen, Steve, to come to this one because I think this PBS frontline thing, has got their attention. And they know it backfired, because when they attack Christianity, what they don't realize, or maybe they do, but they're stupid if they don't. What they don't realize is that's the largest voting bloc in the country. And these people are going to vote this time around. They're going to come out in droves.
We want everybody to see this film. I got it pinned up on the lead at my lead at Getter. I want everybody to see it. Mark, real quickly, how do people get to the Hollow? How they found out about your work? Not just the Hollow, but what you guys did to inspire the takeover of the local school board. Where do they go, and what's your social media?
The social media for the Forever Free, the 5013C, is the Hollow 4 kids.com, and then the political side is the hollow2a.com.
So the hollow4kids.com.
So it's the hollow for kids.
Okay. Hollow2a.com.
Okay, we'll make sure we get that in all the chat rooms, and we'll have that up on the screen. Mike Flynn, the Reclaim America. Where do people go for that? And then I want to know your social media so people can follow you. Where do they go to Reclaim first? If they're in the area and they can still come and get a ticket, we will make sure that place is packed all weekend. Where do they go?
Packed. Yeah, it's timetofreeamerica.com, timetofreeamerica.com. And we are sold out here, although if people show up, I guarantee we'll fit them into this place. But we've got, I just came from the site to do a recon. We've got about 5,000 chairs in there. And our next one is in Branson, Missouri, coming up in about 3 weeks. And then we have another one in Nashville following that after the holidays. We're going to continue to drive forward. So timetofreeamerica.com. And if they want to find me, generalflynn.com, generalflynn.com. And they'll know what I'm thinking.
Is it Clay Clark your partner in that? Is he the one that puts it together?
Yeah. Clay Clark. Clay Clark is a terrific guy.
Great guy.
Wonderful. He's wonderful.
Fantastic guy. Really one of the great patriots. General Flynn, Mark Mellor, thank you for joining us here in the battleground. Good luck with the up in Pennsylvania over the weekend, sir. And we're going to push this movie, Mike Flynn's Holy War, out big league. Thank you, General Flynn.
Commander of the Holy War.
Thank you. Okay, I want to go to North Carolina 13 and to Bo Hines, who's run down a tough congressional race there. Bo, tell us a second. Give us a minute or two about your district, about that part of North Carolina, and about the citizens down there. Can you tell, the cities, the geography, what are the folks like down there?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have half of Wake County, which is actually half of downtown Raleigh, but then we have 3 very conservative counties outside of that. We have Johnston County, otherwise known as JoCo. We have most of Wayne County and most of Harnett County. This is the most competitive Republican-leaning seat in the state of North Carolina, but, we're working hard. I was just out at early voting locations today. Early voting started here in North Carolina today, and, it's immensely rewarding to see how many conservatives and Republicans are pouring out to the polls. I mean, they are fed up with what is going on in this country, and we're seeing it on the first day of voting in person.
Look, you got some of the nicest folks in this country in North Carolina. The Tar Heels is just an amazing, amazing place. Not just the beauty, but the folks there are so nice. Walk me through your constituents. What's on top? What's the top of people's mind? We're hurtling down to this. We say the most important midterm since 1862. When you go around and shaking hands, going to the cafes, the coffee shops, what are folks telling you? What are they looking for in a representative, and what's at top of mind for them right now?
Well, I mean, they're looking for someone with common sense that actually takes the time to get to know, what they're dealing with in their everyday lives, which we have for the past year. We've met so many tremendous people in our district, but they're hurting. I mean, the biggest issue right now is obviously the economy. I mean, with 8.3% inflation, that's the equivalent of 1 month's salary, for the American people. I mean, that's unsustainable. It's ridiculous. People can't afford their groceries. They can't afford, gas at the pump. They can't afford their everyday needs. And, especially our farmers in our rural communities of this district, the input costs have skyrocketed. They're barely scraping by making profits this year. It's absolutely ridiculous. But, Steve, we also hear a lot about crime. People want to make sure their streets are safe. They want to make sure their children can play outside without fear of being harmed. And, parents also want to say in what their children are taught. So we hear a lot about education. They don't want the government telling them what their children should learn in school or what age they should learn certain material. They're fed up with their children being sexualized, in public schools, and they just want to see all of this ridiculousness end.
Let's play the spot. We have a spot I want to play, and then I want your comments about it afterwards.
Remember when you could afford gas, groceries, and electricity? When store shelves were stocked? When children were educated, not indoctrinated? When our borders were secure, our streets safe, and our economy was healthy? Bo Hines has the vision and plan to restore American prosperity. Bo will downsize big government, cut spending, and reduce taxes and regulations to create better jobs with bigger paychecks. Visionary leadership. Bo Hines for Congress.
I'm Bo Hines, and I approve this message.
Bo, here's the question. We're going to have Mark Mitchell on here in a moment, the head of polling for Rasmussen. They have a poll just out today that 2/3 of the nation think that Joe Biden's got the country on the wrong track. Only 20%, and this is the lowest number I ever remember seeing, and I've been in this business a while, only 20% believe it's on the right track. When you're out there and with your opponent, how does your opponent separate themselves from what the radical Democrats and Joe Biden, the Biden regime, has done to the country to turn off not just MAGA, not just the Trump supporters, but I mean a broad swath of independents and Democrats?
Well, I mean, he's completely alienated most of the American people. I mean, they've seen the incompetency of his administration. They've seen what his failed policies have done to the American people with skyrocketing inflation. We've seen the rampant illegal immigration, the flow of fentanyl into our communities, which is destroying, many American lives, but especially in our rural communities. People are just done with this administration. They're done with the incompetence, and they're done with the lies, quite frankly. I would love to have Joe Biden come to my district and campaign for my opponent because, he's the most unlikable president we've had in a long time, and his policies have failed. His ideas have failed. And unfortunately, the American people are paying the consequences for that, but they're going to let him know that they are ready for change at the ballot box this November. We're excited to see what's in store, and, we think it's going to be a great election cycle for us.
In your opponent, just a proxy vote for Biden, essentially I know they always try to run as an independent and as a moderate Republican during his campaigns, but in reality, they support that. They support the agenda 1,000%, correct?
Oh, absolutely. My opponent's actually a California liberal that moved to North Carolina, jumped in the state Senate. He boasted about having the most progressive liberal voting record in the state Senate for years, but now he wants to run as a moderate all of a sudden when, the election cycle is not in his favor. So, the American people are smart. They see through all of the lies and deception. And, I think they're going to come out in a massive storm to the polls. And we're already seeing it just on day one here with in-person voting in North Carolina. And they're going to let these Democrats know that, they're done with the failed agenda. They're done with the Biden administration. And more importantly, they're done with the lies that they've been sold by the Democratic Party for decades at a time.
Bo Hines down North Carolina 13. How do people find out more about the campaign, Bo?
Absolutely. Please visit our website. It's bo4nc.com. That's bo, the number 4nc.com. You can follow us on social media anywhere at Bo Hines or Bo Hines NC. Get out and vote today if you're in North Carolina. We need you.
Bo Hines, thank you for taking time away from the campaign trail to join us. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Steve.
Okay, we're going to go to El Paso, Texas now with Irene Jackson. Irene, you're in one of the tougher races in the country because you're really going up against, I think, one of the most radical congressmen in the country. Walk us through your opponent, what her positions are, and what it's done for the citizens of El Paso.
Well, it's Democrat as usual. She aligns with the Biden administration 100%. She's also a proxy vote for this administration. They negate, of course, that we have a crisis here in El Paso, even though people are coming in by the thousands. I get pictures and videos from Border Patrol agents on a daily basis. They're frustrated. My husband, who recently retired from Border Patrol, told me, we took an oath to prevent illegal immigration, and now we're welcoming it. And that is egregious to a new level. We don't know what is coming in. People are just they take a picture, they do their thumbprint, and that's it. And right now we even have the Venezuelans protesting on the Mexican side, demanding to be allowed in when we already know that Venezuela has emptied their jails, and that is exactly what they're sending. And of course, Veronica instructed the mayor, Oscar Leeser, to not declare an emergency to be able to get the federal funds that we need in order to deal with this crisis that is a self-inflicted wound. And the American public, especially here in El Paso, Hispanics, they're tired. They can't hide it anymore. When they go and pump the gas, when they go and buy groceries, empty shelves and high prices on everything, it's hurting everybody across the board.
Well, has the congressman worked with the Biden regime to basically make El Paso the kind of throughway that everybody's coming through? I mean, we actually were part of the group that built the wall down there when the Border Patrol told us it was the most dangerous crossing for the cartels. But it's exploded since then. So what's going on? Is the congressman working to do that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's even proof that she's gone to the Mexican side even before it exploded in the numbers that it did in 2019. There's proof where she sent staff across the border in order to train the people as to what is the verbiage that they're supposed to use when they come across Border Patrol agents. And, we jokingly say, we remember when illegals would run away from Border Patrol instead of running to them. And I got a video of the Border Patrol agents that are just videotaping these people just walking across the river, and they're supposed to process them. This makeshift welcome center is full of city employees, county employees. We have ICE agents. ICE is supposed to be deporting illegals, and they're working for this administration to welcome illegals. If this is not a slap in the face for Americans, I don't know what is.
Has the Hispanic American community in El Paso woken up to the fact that they're getting played by the Democratic Party?
Absolutely. We sent a mass outreach last week, and we're doing the polling as we speak. We expected the independents to respond favorably, but the light blues, the people with a little bit of common sense and reasoning, are actually responding a lot better than even the independents. And we want to make sure that we reach every voter in El Paso. I just wish the Republicans would wake up and invest in my community, because what the Republicans are actually telling the people from El Paso is, you don't matter. Border Patrol agents that work in El Paso, you don't matter, because we're not even talking about you at this point. We have a wicked Congress member that aligns with this regime 100%, and the Republicans stick their nose in the ground. We have no help from the Republican Party, and to be honest with you, Steve, I am sick and tired. Of course, I expect it from the Democrats, but when it's your own party and those that are supposed to be on your side, I feel like a salmon swimming against the current. But I know that Hispanics are conservative, because I am conservative, because my parents, my aunts, my cousins, they're all coming to vote Republican, and many of them for the very first time. I just wish the Republicans would wake up, but there is hope in El Paso. And it is on November the 8th when all these people in droves that are mad and they're angry, they're going to go and they're going to vote for me, and they're going to vote for every Republican down the ballot.
Hang on for 1 second. We're going to hold you through the break.
Sure.
We'll bring you back. We've got Mark Mitchell from Rasmussen. We have Darren Beattie from Revolver. And, of course, the great Dr. Bradley Thayer, all next in the War Room.
War Room Battleground with Stephen K. Bannon.
Irene, give your site. Where do people go? You've got a lot of support in this audience, as you know, and you still got a long way to go. It's 3 weeks. Give us your site. How do people find out more about this campaign? Because this is one of the tougher ones in the nation, but it's also one of the most important. El Paso is a fantastic city. I've spent a lot of time there. I love El Paso. I love the folks down there. And you're right. If we put the resources in back of a fighter like you, we can flip El Paso. So where do people go?
You go to ireneforcongress.com, ireneforcongress.com. And like I said before, call me directly. Many of your listeners actually call me, and I answered each one of them. My phone number is 915-494-2851. If I don't answer, leave a message, send a text. But more than anything, give it all you got when you send your donation. It's all going to the campaign and exposing this socialist radical incumbent. We got to take her out. She started attacking my children. She started attacking Jesus Christ with filth, with vulgarity, and we cannot stand for that. So it's ireneforcongress.com, 915-494-2851.
You're a brave woman, Irene, to give your number out on War Room, but hey, you're tough. That's what it takes. And you're El Paso tough. So Irene Jackson, thank you very much. Honored to have you on here.
Thank you. God bless you all.
Very good. Thank you, ma'am. Let's go to, I got Mark now, Mark Mitchell over at Rasmussen. Mark, you guys have come out with a bunch of new polling, right track, wrong track. You're doing generic ballot, all of it. Walk us through. You guys are pretty good. I think you may be the best MAGA poller overall. Where do you think we stand with, was it 17 in a wake up, 18 in a wake up, inside of 3 weeks? Where do you see this? Where do you see the landscape right now? And is it starting to shift in one direction?
Well, I see it certainly better than the last time I was on your show. So to recap, the generic ballot's been, as high as plus 13 a year ago for the Republicans. And then bit by bit, as things happen, that lead has been chipped away. And we got to a period a couple weeks ago where Republicans only in our poll had a 1 to 2 point lead. And I think you remarked, well, why aren't they at like plus 6 or something? And then sure enough, as of last Friday, Republicans are back to a plus 7 lead. Now, if you ask me, is that going to hold up looking at the numbers I see this week? I say maybe it's going to tighten up to 4 or 5. But I think one of the things I said last time was generic ballot's not the only thing you would look at. And I'd even go one step farther and say it's not the first tool in my tool shed that I'd pick if I were trying to generally predict the outcome of elections. And I think some of that might be because maybe things, even though they're polarized, are a little bit less red team, blue team. And I'll throw out one example. McCarthy getting up there and saying that if he was going to become speaker, he sees no impeachable offenses for anybody. And I'll tell you, the voters absolutely 100% disagree with that. 3/4 of Republicans, half of independents, and even a third of Democrats support impeaching Joe Biden, at least somewhat. So really big dichotomy there. But
a third of Democrat. Hang on, a third of registered Democrats think he should be impeached.
Yeah, 32% at least somewhat support impeaching Biden. Yes. So, I mean,
here's what hang on. Here's what I just want to say about this, because I think we are the leaders in the impeach Biden. And I think what Kevin said, and I think this is true, and I support this 100%. We should not impeach Joe Biden for political purposes or political reasons. That's not what this is about. After appropriate investigations by different House committees, if it comes up that in the process of that, like the hard drive from hell and things like that, that there are impeachable offenses, then it has to go to the next level. I am very confident that in the spring and summer next year, we'll be talking about the charges of Articles 1, 2, and maybe 3 for a bill of impeachment against Joe Biden. But we're far from there yet. And I think voters ought to know before they go to the polls on November 8th, we're not looking to turn this into we want to put the Trump era of political impeachments in back of us and just deal with high crimes and misdemeanors. But you're saying that you think that's a front burner issue with folks?
Well, no, but I see things like that statement that got a lot of press time, and I wonder if they're accretive for the general Republican message. So I think part of how this thing shakes out, especially for the Senate, is it comes down to individual races. We're starting to poll states now. We're coming out with Nevada tomorrow. We're coming out with PA and Georgia next week. But if I'd have to say a general trend, I'd say Trump outperforms the generic ballot in these battleground states, and your average Republican candidate underperforms the generic ballot in those states. But it looks like in most cases still potentially has a lead. But if you're going to look at
that's don't bury the lead, because that's a scoop. Give me that again in battleground states with Rasmus. When you guys go through this, Trump outpolls the Republican candidate.
We're releasing Nevada tomorrow. Trump does better than generic ballot. The candidates do worse. I'm not going to tell you the numbers.
Is the generic ballot?
Check it out tomorrow.
Okay, I got it. No, it's going to be a blockbuster. Trust me, it will be on Drudge in the. Let me just ask you: the generic ballot. I don't want to break your scoop because it's going to be huge. Your generic ballot in Nevada, is that an R+7?
It's a little higher. So, and then Trump's in double digits.
You're saying Trump is in double digits in Nevada?
Yeah.
Brother, you break some news. What time in the morning is? No, I just saw that. Mark, what time is it?
Primary. I think we're dialed in, and I think that's what the results, are going to be. Still a couple weeks, but
I think you guys are some of the best. Let me just ask you, Mark, what time tomorrow morning would the Nevada poll be up?
I think it's a noon story. But I came on here to talk, the midterm elections, and there is one critical indicator. I mean, I think now is the time to start comparing it sort of 4 years over 4 years. Like, how do we look in 2018?
Okay.
And so in 2018, the Democrats, picked up a little bit, and it was pretty much a wash. The generic ballot was a dead heat. But there were, other things. There were no difference in voter enthusiasm across parties. And, Trump approval was low, but between now and then, Biden approval is lower than Trump's was then. The Republicans have more of a lead than Democrats did then. The right direction we're on track is 7 or 8 points wider than it was then. But here's the big one. So in our most recent polling, we asked, how likely is it that Republicans will win control of the U.S. House of Representatives in the upcoming election? 2/3 of voters, 67%, say at least somewhat likely. Only 17% say not likely, and only 5% say not at all likely.
Wow.
So to me, that's 11 points more than it was in 2018 for Democrats. So people look at this election and they say, I don't care what I see in the news. I don't care what NBC tells me the Democrat lead on the generic ballot is. Republicans are probably going to win it pretty comfortably. So Republicans, 86% of Republicans say it's likely they're going to take control of the House. But also, 56% of Democrats. So a majority of Democrats say, yep, Republicans are going to own the House. And even for the Senate, that number's 42% of Democrats think the Senate's gone. So 59% of independents, only 8% of Democrats say it's not at all likely the GOP is taking the House. So to me, this is the strongest signal I've seen that things are looking good for Republican control of both houses. Now, you can't crunch this into an algorithm and compute plus 23 or something like that. But it looks pretty good.
Mark, do you think that those numbers, when you see them, will that affect turnout of Democrats? Or Democrats starting to get despondent when they are actually answering 56% think that will win? And we're very enthusiastic, obviously, at 86%. But do you think that some of those responses actually hurt their turnout to make this thing kind of self-fulfilling?
I think that's the key thing here. If you ask somebody if they're going to vote for a Republican or Democrat, they're going to say Republican or Democrat. And you look at the Republican and Democrats' responses, Republicans say Republicans, Democrats say Democrats. But then you ask them other questions like, are you definitely going to vote? And people are going to say yes, even if they're not going to vote, right? But here, we're asking them who's going to win, and pretty much everybody says Republican. So that's a strong signal. And it shows that Democrats, by and large, think there's a really good chance Republicans are going to win House and Senate. So how much is that going to suppress the vote? I don't know, but it's certainly a very strong indicator.
Mark, how do people get to you and on social media and your site, and how do they get ready for this noon? Because this will be pretty much this will be the weekend blockbuster poll in Nevada.
Yeah.
Where do people go?
Yeah, we're going to drop a lot more polls over the coming week or two. Your help last time was, very thankful in getting people to our YouTube and getting subscribers. I would love more of that, but in YouTube, we link to our other places too. One of the things is that your viewers can come and sign up for a free daily email from our website that covers all of our polls. And YouTube is just free content. We have a paywall for our stories, but come and I talk about these polls and show you stuff that you could get for free, and it's in a real shareable format. And the one I did today on this topic is doing really great. So people like to see that there's bad news for Democrats out there.
Well, I tell you, Mark, people really loved going to your YouTube channel. We get tremendous positive feedback from the audience. That's why we want to have you back on frequently. You guys are fantastic. You do a lot of great analytical work, and that's what's needed now more than ever. Mark Mitchell, Rasmus, thank you, sir. Honored to have you on here.
Thank you.
One of our favorite sites, obviously, is Revolver News and the great Darren Beattie. Darren, we're kind of jammed for time, and I got two stories I want to make sure everybody reads. And I promise you we're going to get to that fashion story. We'll make a big deal about Darren Beattie and Steve Bannon are going to go through fashion. But first off, Fetterman, you just heard of the polling here. We've talked to candidates. You got a sense of where the country is. Biden was just up in Pittsburgh, and Fetterman's there in a suit that looks like it's 4 sizes too big. But he also doesn't speak beforehand. He's just kind of wandering around like he's not all there, right? To be blunt about it. Tell me about your story on Fetterman.
Well, we've got a pretty devastating piece that just dropped on Fetterman. In fact, some people are saying, look, he deserves it, but it might even be too brutal. But the framing is very simple and very justified and very powerful. Basically, what it does, it is intersperses Fetterman's performances and interviews and statements and such with the original conception of what the Senate should be as envisaged by the founding fathers. And I think no juxtaposition can more powerfully illustrate not only the decline of the country, but the decline in the nature of the democracy itself. It's really striking when you look at what the founding fathers actually thought the Senate would be, and just the contrast is so profound that it actually has a comedic effect more than a tragic effect, which is interesting.
Is this because of the stroke? And we've got Joe Allen up in the Commonwealth now, because we say he's the first cyborg candidate ever to run, because it's not the thing's not a closed caption. It's actually man-machine merger, to be honest. And people have to be honest about that. Is that what your beef is? Is that what you guys walk through?
Well, I mean, I think that, with all sympathy for his medical condition granted, the stroke certainly doesn't help. I think we're dealing with a candidate who's a complete failure and a disaster to begin with, but then you add an really devastating stroke that basically prevents him from even, functioning in any kind of baseline cognitive capacity. And what you have is a very sad situation. This is what gets to the sort of the analytical side of the piece, which is that, you see this trend with Biden, who also is not exactly at his cognitive best, and many others. And it's just, in one way, they're presenting these people as, oh, the more screwed up they are, the more presumably they're able to relate to people, which is a very condescending way to think about their voting populace. But also, it's just such a fake version of populism, because when you have people that decrepit and that non-functional, you know that the handlers are running everything. And so I think the most critical line from the piece, other than the really interesting stuff about the founding fathers, is to say Fetterman represents a different and base version of populism. He represents the populism that admits American society is falling apart and leaders should be elected who reflect that collapse, but in mind, body, and soul. His Senate campaign doesn't rest on sharing the values or experiences of the public. Instead, it rests upon this premise. Hey, have you noticed America is increasingly full of obese, slovenly, tatted up, jobless people? Well, hey, here's the biggest obese, slovenly, tatted up, jobless person of all. And it really reflects a misreading of what populism could be and should be. It's incredibly insulting to the people he's asking to vote for him. And it's insulting to the original design of what the Senate should be. And it's insulting to every American, just the very possibility that somebody this screwed up could enter the Senate. And so it's just a disaster on every dimension you can possibly imagine. But this piece is getting a tremendous response. Go to the piece, read it. It's very shareable. People are interested in the founding fathers, interested in the Senate, and interested in the disaster that is Fetterman the cyborg. You got to get this piece. It's white hot.
I tell you what, I'm going to talk to you afterwards. We'll get you back on tomorrow about the Chinese piece, because it was prescient and it's important and it's powerful. And I want to take more time. Hang on, but I want everybody go read this piece. And remember, Fetterman crushed Conor Lamb 2-1. Conor Lamb had beaten Parnell. Conor Lamb, you think, would be Mark 1 Mod 0 of a candidate for the Senate. Fetterman blew him out of the water. I mean, the Democrats picked this guy on purpose. This shows you about the Democratic base in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, because they picked Fetterman. And by the way, even when he had a stroke. Darren, Beattie, how do they get to Revolver? How do they get to your social media?
Revolver.news, as always. We've got several really, really white hot pieces, including the Fetterman piece and the China piece that we'll discuss tomorrow. I'm at Twitter at Darren J. Beattie, and we're at Gitter at Revolver News.
Darren, thank you very much. Appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
I want to finish the show with Dr. Bradley Thayer. Dr. Thayer, give us your assessment of Xi's speech on Sunday. I found it chilling, but we wanted to have you on to give your assessment, sir.
Well, Steve, great to be with you again. I've written a piece that I call Thinking Like a Communist, which really captures my thoughts on the 20th Xi Jinping speech to the 20th Party Congress. There are three elements there that are important that show that Xi is taking China in a very belligerent and aggressive direction. First, he's making a change in terms of what the party has set for itself, what they call the centenary goals, from essentially having a moderately prosperous China to a modern socialist country, which means in their own mind, they're capable of international leadership. And they want to drive international leadership, setting the rules, the norms, the standards of international leadership. Second point, this is a Marxist who takes Marxism very seriously, and that's very important for your audience to understand, and for audiences around the world to grasp. He takes communist ideology, and he's a fervent believer in it, and he sees his own contributions to that to be the equal of Mao Zedong, essentially the heretofore dominant figure in the Chinese Communist Party. Thirdly, belligerence is the order of the day. The speech is targeted in terms of its international dimension at the United States and its allies, as well as, of course, at Taiwan as you've stressed, of course, multiple times on your show. So it's quite alarming, but we should recognize it's the fruits of the ideology. The fact that this guy is a Marxist and his ideology is driving his aggression, and it reveals his intent for China, that China is now capable of replacing the United States and can push the United States not only out of the Indo-Pacific area, but through targeting the American homeland, of course, and bringing about the changes that he wants in the U.S. as well. So very significant 20th Party Congress speech. We're going to be living with this for a long time. This is the equivalent of Stalin's speech. Joseph Stalin gave a speech February 9th, 1946, which is memorable because it's the start of the Cold War. Stalin said capitalist countries can't live peacefully with communist countries, with Marxist countries. There's conflict is inevitable, and the Soviet Union needed to recognize that and prepare for it. So that speech launched the Cold War. Churchill's speech was a response to that, as well as, of course, Kennan's long telegram was a response to Stalin's speech. So we've had something the equivalent in terms of Stalin's speech and Xi's 20th Party Congress speech. Very important speech. We're going to be living with the consequences of this for a long time, but he's revealed his hand in terms of his direction.
Yep. Dr. Thayer, how did people get your book, your new book about understanding this, and how do they get to all your writings?
Understanding the China Threat, which I co-wrote with Lian Chao Han, is available at Amazon, and you can get my writings, of course, at Bradley Thayer at Getter or Bradley Thayer at Truth, or Yi Bao on Twitter at Yi Bao _EN, which is, of course, the English version of Yi Bao, which is a great site for folks to look at, full with a lot of Chinese dissidents and strong critics of the Chinese regime. Thanks, Steve.
Dr. Thayer, thank you. We're going to have you back on to go through this, connect the dots of Stalin to Kennan to the Churchill's speech, because we're in it now, and they couldn't have been more brazen. Dr. Thayer, thank you very much. Tomorrow morning in the War Room, stand by. We're going to be on fire as well. 16 days and a wake-up away starting tomorrow. See you tomorrow in the War Room.